Gabriel Mercer's life, on paper, was immaculate. Sharp corners, clean edges, a marriage that looked like permanence, a career that looked like legacy. But blueprints don't account for erosion, or for the quiet ache of a mind hollowing itself out by degrees too small for others to see. On the night they gathered to honor him, the architectural firm's annual gala, Gabriel stood alone in a halo of soft amber light, watching the silver etching of his name on the crystal award. Gabriel Mercer, Excellence in Urban Design. It was heavy in his hand, not with pride, but with something colder, denser, a gravity he had no language for. Mara's voice cut gently into his periphery. You're holding it like it might shatter. Her hand brushed his wrist. Warm, familiar. Still, it startled him more than it should have. He schooled his features before turning. The practiced half-smile, polite exhaustion masked as contentment. Glass trophies tend to make me cautious. It landed flat. He knew it as soon as it left his mouth. But Mara only smiled, soft and steady, as she always did when his deflection skimmed too close to the surface. You should be proud. 30 years of blueprints in concrete. Now a little glass to show for it. Her thumb stroked the thin edge of his wrist absently. Her touch always found him easily, even now, especially now. Gabriel's throat constricted against itself. He kissed her temple, the way he had done for 15 years. It was automatic, beautifully automatic. He just didn't feel it anymore. Later, as the applause blurred into the background hum of 1,000 indistinct conversations, Gabriel moved through the ballroom like a man floating half an inch above his own shoes. Victor caught up to him at the far end of the bar, always knowing, always patient. Victor Hale had the look of someone who weighed his words even in silence. His charcoal suit was crisp but understated. His wireframe glasses reflected just enough light to conceal the full scrutiny of his eyes, an old trick, Gabriel suspected, left over from years of guiding patients through fragile disclosures. I should have guessed you'd retreat here, Victor said mildly, settling into the seat beside him. His voice had a sanded, unhurried timbre. A man who didn't need to fill quiet spaces to feel comfortable in them. Gabriel exhaled a hollow chuckle. Every party has its architectural weak point, bars and exits. Victor's lips quirked. He studied Gabriel for a long moment, then flagged the bartender and ordered a mineral water for both of them. Hydration before congratulations, Victor murmured. His gaze didn't leave Gabriel's face. Tell me something, Gabe. Did you think it'd feel different? Holding that, he gestured toward the award still clutched in Gabriel's hand. Gabriel hadn't realized he carried it with him across the entire room. Gabriel set it down on the bar with more force than necessary. I thought it would settle something. His voice came out thinner than intended. I thought it would quiet things. Victor nodded once, slowly. It's a strange thing when the summit's colder than the climb. The line dug into Gabriel with surgical precision, because Victor knew. Victor always knew, not explicitly. Gabriel was too careful for that, but with the quiet, cumulative understanding of someone who had mapped subtle silences for decades. He shifted on the stool. His shoulders ached under his suit, or perhaps under the year, or the decade. You're still seeing patients 5 days a week. Vic saved the sage metaphors for the ones who are paying. His tone was clipped, but not cruel. He didn't have the energy for cruelty anymore. Victor only sipped his water. His silence said more than any retort could have. At home, Mara was already in bed by the time Gabriel slid between sheets. The room was dim, the soft glow of the reading lamp still on her side table, her dog-eared novel face down, beside her hand. Her breathing was even, but not deep enough for full sleep. She was waiting for him, without saying so. It hit him like a gut punch laced in silk. He lay down gingerly, careful not to disturb the mattress too much. His muscles twitched involuntarily under his own skin, a low hum of energy that refused to burn off even after 12 hours on his feet. Mara spoke without opening her eyes. Did you enjoy any of it? It was a neutral question, a soft landing spot for confession, if he wanted it. He could have told her everything right there. Could have said, I don't know how to feel anymore. It's all gray edges and hollow shapes, and I'm terrified that I'm erasing myself one day at a time and you can't see it. Instead, He pivoted to habit. It was a long day. His voice scraped low in his chest. Tired, believable, untruthful. Mara opened her eyes and studied the side of his face in the dark. He could feel her gaze like static electricity against his cheekbone. But she didn't press. She never pressed hard, only patiently. It was both her greatest strength and a loophole that allowed him to slip further into himself unchecked. After several long minutes, she turned off the lamp. Gabriel lay awake long after her breath had deepened into true sleep. His gaze locked on the darkened ceiling. The faint latticework of streetlights filtering through the window blinds painted fractured lines above him, like cracks in glass. Some fractures don't start with explosions. Some start like hairline cracks beneath polished surfaces, undetectable until the weight's too much to bear. And by the time they're visible, the structure's already compromised. The kitchen clock hummed softly, a mechanical whisper that seemed louder in the pre-dawn hush. Mara Mercer cradled her coffee mug between her palms, elbows braced against the cool edge of the counter. The house around her was still, the kind of stillness that only existed in the fragile scene between night and morning. Gabriel hadn't stirred beside her when she rose. No surprise. Lately, his sleep had folded into something heavier, deeper, not restful, just absent, like he was falling through himself instead of dreaming. She took a slow sip, eyes tracking the familiar geometry of their kitchen. White subway tiles, navy cabinets, brushed gold handles. Gabriel's meticulous hand had been in every corner of the remodel 3 years ago. Clean lines, balanced symmetry. It had been their project, their shared vision. Now it felt like she was standing in a blueprint he'd already stepped out of. Her phone buzzed against the counter. A message from Victor. Coffee today? 9:30. Same place. Her thumb hovered above the screen. She typed back quickly. Yes, I think it's time. Victor's office was tucked behind an unassuming brick facade on Winslow Street. No shingle, no brass plate screaming credentials, just a narrow cobalt door with frosted glass panes and a small, weathered sign that read simply, Hail. Mara sat across from him in the small cafe 2 blocks down, her fingers drumming absently against the ceramic saucer beneath her cup. Victor watched her carefully, patient as ever, but she could see the flicker of concern pulling at the corners of his mouth. He's drifting, she said finally, voice steady but quiet. More than usual. Victor nodded slowly. I saw it too. His confirmation settled in her chest with equal parts relief and dread. She set her cup down deliberately. I know you can't play psychologist with your best friend. I'm not, Victor replied evenly. I'm observing. Like you are. A beat passed. His gaze didn't waver. Mara, how long has it been like this? She pressed her lips together, the answer already shaped on her tongue. Almost a year, maybe longer. At first it was small. He was tired more, quieter. I told myself it was just the projects piling up. Her jaw flexed. I told myself it was just life. Victor folded his hands in front of him, his fingers long and deliberate in their movements. He's good at masking. The understatement of the decade. Gabriel had always worn calm way other men wore ambition, clean, pressed, impervious. The man who never forgot an anniversary, never left a task half finished, never cracked under deadlines. Mara exhaled sharply through her nose. Do you know how hard it is to fight with someone who won't even pick up the gloves? Her voice faltered at the edges. She sat back, blinking hard. I've been angry and scared and lonely, and all of it just slides right off him. He doesn't meet me there anymore. Victor's face softened, his brow pinched in quiet empathy. It's not that he won't. It's that he can't. Right now, anyway. He leaned in slightly, his tone low, deliberate. Mara, has he ever talked about his father with you? Her throat tightened. She shook her head slowly. Once, years ago, he said his father walled himself in and called it strength. That was it. Nothing more. Victor's jaw flexed almost imperceptibly. That makes sense. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. A simple handout. Signs of high-functioning depression. Printed in clean serif font across the top. He slid across the table toward her wordlessly. Her pulse kicked harder in her wrists as her eyes scanned the list. Persistent fatigue despite adequate rest. Withdrawal from close relationships. Increased irritability masked as detachment. Difficulty experiencing pleasure in previously enjoyed activities. Excessive self-criticism despite external success. Reluctance to seek help due to perceived burden. By the third bullet, her breath stuttered. By the last, her hands trembled faintly around the paper's edges. Victor's voice was soft but unflinching. Mara, what you're seeing isn't distance. It's collapse disguised as competence. The words cracked something clean through her chest. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, sharp and unwelcome. She folded the paper carefully, methodically, a reflexive control in the face of unraveling things. I don't know how to reach him, Victor. Her voice broke on the last syllable. She hated that it did. I've tried everything. Victor's gaze steadied on her. Maybe it's not about reaching him. Maybe it's about creating enough safety for him to stop running from himself. He let the weight of that settle before continuing. I'm not suggesting ultimatums, but boundaries help, even for people who think they don't need them, especially them. Mara swallowed hard, her breath evened slightly, shoulders slowly lowering from their habitual tension. I can do that. She tucked the folded paper into her bag carefully. I have to do that. Victor held her gaze a moment longer, then nodded. Text me if things shift, if you need backup. She offered a small, tight smile. Thank you, Vic. Her voice steadied. I'm not ready to lose him yet. That night, Gabriel sat alone in the upstairs office. The light from his drafting lamp cast sharp, clean shadows across the latest blueprint spread beneath his hands. A pedestrian plaza redesign. Clean angles, linear flow, predictable geometry. Predictable, manageable, understandable. He stared at the lines for a long time without seeing them. Then, slowly, mechanically, he picked up a steel ruler and began pressing it to page, harder than necessary, enough that the sharp edge bit faintly into his skin where it overhung the paper. The pressure grounded him. The faint sting cut through the numb fog, clouding his mind. For a moment, it worked. Then quietly from the doorway, Gabriel. Mara's voice. Calm, firm, no accusation, no quiver. He looked up sharply, guilt flashing too quickly through his features to be masked. Her gaze flicked to his hand, then back to his face. Her eyes didn't flinch. I need you to hear something, she said evenly. Her tone brooked no retreat. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her gently. And for the first time in months, Gabriel felt something like real fear. Not because she was angry, but because he could tell, with absolute clarity, she had stopped accepting his distance. It takes longer than you'd think to notice when love starts defending itself. Boundaries don't always sound like walls. Sometimes they sound like the soft certainty of someone who refuses to disappear just because you did. Gabriel hadn't spoken for 37 minutes. He knew that, precisely, because the small analog clock in the corner of his office blinked from 11:52 to 12:29 while he sat motionless in his chair, breath shallow, gaze fixed on a point somewhere just past the edge of his desk. His fingers rested lightly on the steel ruler, still splayed across the blueprint. He wasn't gripping it anymore. The pressure he'd applied earlier had faded, leaving behind only a faint red well along the side of his index finger. It pulsed dully in time with his heartbeat. Steady. Hollow. Mara's words from the doorway echoed in his skull, looping gently but insistently, like distant waves scraping against a shoreline he couldn't see anymore. I need you to hear something. Her tone hadn't carried anger. Worse, it carried clarity. A quiet, unmovable boundary. The kind that made his chest clench because he knew it was fair. He rose slowly, chair scraping against hardwood, and crossed to the far corner of the office where the tall casement window overlooked the back garden. The streetlights threw fractured lattices of pale orange against the paving stones below. Beyond them, the neighborhood slept, still, placid, symmetrical in its rows of roofs and trimmed hedges. A scene he had once found profound comfort in. Now it looked like a diorama, tiny, artificial, distant. His knuckles brushed absently against the cool edge of the window latch. He rested his forehead lightly against the glass, eyes slipping closed. It was easier this way, to dim the world, to let his mind unspool without the clutter of color and motion. And that's when the thought rose. Quiet, clean, logical in its geometry. What if you just stopped? What if this was as good as it was going to get, and your slipping grip is only going to damage her more? What if you left now, before you ruined the blueprint beyond repair? There was no melodrama to it, no cinematic flourish, just a stark, bone-deep calculation. Efficiency, almost, an architect's pragmatism applied to the unbearable mess of living. His thumb tapped once against the latch. Just once. He wasn't fantasizing about it, not in the grandiose sense. There would be no dramatic gestures, just an ending, a clean line, a full stop. But then, a thin vibration cut through the stillness. His phone, face down on the desk. It buzzed once, paused, buzzed again. Slowly, mechanically, Gabriel crossed back to the desk and flipped it over. A text from Mara. Simple, direct. I see you struggling. I'm here when you're ready to let me in. No more guessing games. But no more pretending you're fine either. It's breaking both of us. He stood there, phone heavy in his hand, chest hollowed out like wet plaster. His throat constricted, sharp and fast. His jaw trembled before he could clench it shut. A crack split clean through his ribs, and something gave. For the first time in nearly a year, Gabriel sat down, dropped his face into both hands, and let his body shake. No sound, no sobs, just tremors. Tremors that started at his shoulders and rolled downward, deep into his gut, as if something tectonic had finally shifted after months of subterranean pressure. It doesn't always break like glass. Sometimes it caves like ground softened by too many storms. Quiet, slow, inevitable. You think you can brace for it. You can't. The ground gives way before you even know you're falling. He didn't know how long he sat like that. Eventually the tremors dulled. His breath slowed. The numb fog receded just enough to let clarity edge in. He lifted his head, eyes red, jaw unshaven, cheeks hollowed deeper than he'd realized. For the first time, he saw it himself. Not just tired, not just overworked, not just busy, depressed. The word tasted foreign in his mind, but accurate and unavoidably, irrevocably his. He swallowed hard and stood. His knees wobbled faintly under him. With methodical care, he picked up his phone and typed one line back to Mara. I'm ready to talk. Downstairs, Mara sat curled in the corner of the sofa, blanket draped across her lap, her hand still loosely clasped in front of her mouth as if holding herself in place. When her phone pinged, she snatched it up faster than intended. Her breath caught at the text. Sharp relief cracked through her sternum, so visceral it hurt. She rose immediately and crossed the stairs, her feet soundless on the hardwood. By the time she reached the landing, Gabriel had already opened the office door. His frame filled the doorway, tall but slightly stooped, like some internal scaffolding had finally crumbled. His eyes met hers directly, unshielded, and her breath left her in a soft, shuddered exhale. Finally, I'm not okay, Gabriel said quietly. No dramatics, no qualifiers, just truth, bare and staggering in its simplicity. Mara stepped forward, slow, deliberate, measured his pace. I know. She laid one hand gently against his cheek. And I'm not leaving, but you have to let me stand beside you this time, not behind you. His eyes shimmered. His lips parted slightly, breath shaky. But he nodded, a small, splintering, life-altering nod. The hardest part isn't falling. The hardest part is letting someone else see where you landed, and choosing, against all your instincts, not to stay buried there. The reception area smelled faintly of overworn carpet and pencil shavings, neutral beige walls, a narrow bookshelf lined with titles Mara would have cataloged instinctively if she were here. Gabriel sat with both feet planted flat, his palms pressed his thighs as if bracing against turbulence that hadn't yet arrived. Across from him, a fake ficus tree sagged slightly in its planter. One of its broad plastic leaves had split at the seam, revealing the dull wire skeleton inside. His gaze locked on it. He envied the honesty of that damage. Visible, undeniable. No one mistook it for thriving. The door to his left clicked open with a soft hiss of air. A woman stepped out, early 50s, cropped silver hair, then tortoiseshell glasses perched halfway down her nose. Comfortable cardigan, flat shoes, no clipboard, no white coat. She held only a small ceramic mug, steam curling from it lazily. Gabriel Mercer? Her voice was low, textured, like velvet worn smooth by use. He rose mechanically, knees stiff. She offered a small, neutral smile. I'm Dr. Rana Patel. You can call me Rana if you like. She turned, motioning him gently toward the open door behind her. Come on in. Nothing formal today. Her office was small but orderly. A broad window spilled muted gray light across a pair of mid-century armchairs angled slightly toward one another, intimate but not confrontational. A wooden desk sat pushed against the far wall, unadorned save for a single-framed photograph of ocean cliffs under overcast sky. Calm, stark, honest. Gabriel sat gingerly in a nearer chair, his shoulders square but drawn tight, like rebar twisted too thin. Rana settled opposite him, tucking one leg beneath her neatly. No notebook, no questions, not yet. She simply sipped from her mug, her gaze patient, non-invasive. Minutes stretched. The silence didn't claw like he expected. It settled, warm and heavy, like weighted sandbags pinning down an unstable frame. He exhaled shakily. His knees stopped bouncing. Finally, she spoke, voice low, steady. I don't have an agenda for you today, Gabriel. I'm just here to make room, however you want to fill it. She set her mug down on the coaster beside her gently. But you came. That's the hardest thing most people do all month. His throat constricted, his lips parted, tongue dry against his teeth. I almost didn't. His voice cracked thinly. I almost didn't come at all. Rana nodded once. Not surprise, not judgment. Quiet acknowledgement. I'd have understood that. Gabriel's jaw twitched. He leaned forward slowly, elbows braced his knees, fingers steepled loosely. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft groan of the office's old radiator cycling beneath the window. Finally, I don't know how to do this. His words fell flat and brittle into the air between them. I know how to manage projects, how to troubleshoot clients, how to shore up foundation plans that are on the verge of collapse. A sharp breath shuddered loose from his chest. I don't know how to uncollapse myself. Rana's head tilted faintly. Her expression didn't soften into pity. It steadied into something else. Clear-eyed recognition. I imagine you're used to being the structural integrity in most rooms. His breath caught hard. He swallowed thickly, gaze flashing down. Yes. A whisper. I don't know how to be anything else. Rana didn't rush to answer. She folded her hands loosely in her lap, fingers threading gently. Then, maybe we don't start with demolition, she said calmly. Her gaze lifted, direct but grounded. Maybe we start with identifying which beams are load-bearing and which ones you're allowed to set down. The words didn't crack him open. They settled like a blueprint unfurled on clean drafting paper. For the first time in months, maybe years, something in Gabriel's chest didn't constrict at the thought of disassembly. It exhaled. I can do that, he said softly. The tremor in his voice was smaller now. Honest, unpolished, not rehearsed strength. Just truth. Rana offered a single, small nod. We'll work together on it. Later, in the parking lot, Gabriel sat in the driver's seat of his car, hands loose on the wheel. He hadn't turned the engine over yet. The sky had shifted, pale slate clouds diffusing soft light across the windshield. His breath moved slowly now. The edge was still there. The darkness hadn't vanished. But something had shifted. For the first time, the abyss didn't feel like an infinite drop. It felt like a pit with rough, graspable walls. Something climbable, if painstaking, if deliberate, if not alone. He pulled his phone from his pocket and typed slowly. First session done. Still scared, but steadier, Thank you for pushing me to go. He hit send, then sat back, shoulders sinking slightly against the seat. Above him, the cloud stretched wide and low, unbroken, but no longer crushing. Just present, just real, like the rest of it. Therapy doesn't hand you ladders. It teaches you where to plant your feet, so the walls don't swallow you whole. It's not fast. It's not clean. It's just human. And sometimes human is enough. Gabriel adjusted the cuff of his shirt twice before stepping into the conference room. The glass walls vibrated faintly under the hum of afternoon traffic outside, a low-frequency pulse that matched the dull ache behind his eyes. 12 sets of eyes flicked up as he crossed the head of the long table. Blueprints spread across the mahogany surface. Section site plans, foundation stress tests, load calculations scrawled in black Sharpie. His realm, his refuge, his battlefield. Damon, his senior associate, shifted slightly at the far end, brow tight, jaw set. There had been tension there for weeks. Gabriel knew why. He'd missed deadlines, deferred decisions. His fingerprints had been lighter on projects where they once pressed deep into every detail. For months, Damon had compensated without asking, but that well had limits. Gabriel cleared his throat gently and laid both palms flat on the cool table edge. His fingers didn't tremble. Not today. We're shelving the Fraser proposal until next quarter, he said evenly. A ripple passed down the table. Surprise, relief, irritation. Damon's brow furrowed deeper. Clients expecting a structured report by Friday. His voice was careful, edged with mass frustration. Gabriel met his gaze squarely. I'm not sacrificing integrity for the timeline. We've done that twice already this fiscal year. Not again. Silence. Measured. Waited. The team exchanged subtle glances. This wasn't collapse. This was a line drawn. Clear. Deliberate. Finally, Damon sat back, exhaling sharply through his nose. All right. His shoulders relaxed fractionally. Gabriel nodded once. Small. Grounded. He didn't over-explain. Didn't apologize preemptively. Rana's words echoed faintly in his skull. You don't owe people an autopsy every time you protect your bandwidth. The meeting wrapped 20 minutes later, clean and unforced. As Gabriel gathered his papers, Damon lingered behind. Gaze heavy. You're different lately. His tone wasn't accusatory, just uncertain. Gabriel paused, blueprints half rolled in his hand. He considered, jaw flexing once. Then, I'm working on not breaking. A beat. That means sometimes pulling back before I fracture the team with me. Damon's brow softened fractionally. He gave a tight nod, not entirely understanding, but respecting the line nonetheless. I can live with that. Then he turned and left. Gabriel exhaled slowly, shoulders lowering. Small. Victory. That evening, Mara stirred curry gently on the stovetop, her left hand bracing the pan steady. Soft jazz floated from the living room speaker. The kitchen lights cast amber warmth across the marble countertop, their home's heart pulsing steady, familiar. Gabriel crossed the threshold quietly, setting his keys in the small ceramic bowl by the door. Mara glanced over her shoulder, soft eyes, cautious smile. How did they land? He stepped in, palms bracing the counter edge lightly. Better. A pause. I pulled rank on the Fraser project. Protected the team instead of bulldozing through. His voice wavered faintly. Equal parts pride and uncertainty. I didn't overwork to compensate. Mara's lips parted, breath catching soft in her chest. Her gaze shimmered faintly, relief, respect, quiet pride. She stepped forward, resting her palm lightly against his chest bone. Warm. Steady. Her thumb traced small circles just left of the sternum. Grounding. I see you, she whispered. And I'm proud of you. His throat constricted sharp. Not from shame. From recognition. He bent his forehead gently to hers, breast shallow but even. But as her hand slid down to intertwine fingers with his, the contact sparked something raw beneath his ribs. Not panic. Not dread. Something else. Fragility. Exposure. His chest hollowed slightly. He stepped back an inch too fast. Her brow knit instantly, hurt flickering before she masked it. I'm sorry, he breathed. Still, learning where I can stretch. Mara's jaw worked subtly. She nodded once, measured, composed, but her eyes glinted faintly wet. You don't have to apologize. Her voice cracked gently. I just need to know when it's the depression flinching and when it's you pulling away. He swallowed hard. I'll get better at flagging it sooner. His voice carried no false bravado, just quiet commitment. Later that night, Gabriel sat at the edge of their bed, fingertips lightly grazing the smooth seam of the quilt's edge. Mara brushed her teeth quietly in the bathroom, light spilling muted gold across the threshold. Her silhouette blurred slightly behind the frosted glass. Ordinary, unremarkable, sacred. He exhaled slowly, gaze distant. His phone buzzed once on the nightstand. A message from Rana. Good work setting boundaries today. Remember, intimacy tolerance rebuilds like muscle strength. Incrementally, patiently. Communicate the strain. Don't judge it. Gabriel's lips parted in a faint, unsteady breath. He turned slightly, eyes catching Mara stepping back into the room, wiping her mouth on a small towel. Their eyes met, her expression open, steady, waiting, but not pressuring. Slowly, deliberately, he rose, crossed the room, and wrapped both arms lightly around her waist. Not tight, not desperate, just present. She melted into him with a soft exhale, her cheek resting gently against his shoulder. And this time, the hollow space in his chest did not recoil. It stretched, carefully, willingly. Recovery isn't a straight line. It bends, dips, doubles back. Some days you gain inches. Some days you lose ground. But the trick is not perfection. It's presence. It's saying, I'm still here, even when your ribs ache from the weight of staying. Gabriel noticed a car before he noticed a man. A charcoal gray sedan, older, American make, front bumper kissed with rust, back wheel rim bent faintly inward. It idled unevenly at the curb in front of their townhouse, engine grumbling like an unsettled animal. Unfamiliar plates, unmistakable presence. Mara's hand tightened gently around his as they stepped up from the sidewalk. He felt her pulse notch higher through her fingertips. Her gaze tracked the man leaning against the hood, stocky frame, denim jacket frayed at the seams, salt and pepper stubble framing a jaw set too tight to be casual. Gabriel's breath caught shallow in his throat, his feet rooted instinctively, 30 feet away, but already too close. The man straightened, arms unfolding, gait weighted but unhurried, brown leather boots scuffed raw at the toes, eyes sharp, hazel-flecked, too familiar to mistake. Hey, Gabe. Voice rough as gravel, softened by disuse rather than sentiment. Nathan Mercer, older brother, estranged for nearly 8 years. Gabriel's jaw locked hard, his shoulders coiled tight, fingers twitching reflexively at his sides. He hadn't spoken Nathan's name aloud since the Christmas their mother died, the funeral that fractured what little scaffolding of family they pretended to keep standing. Mara's hand slid subtly to his lower back, not pushing, not pulling, anchoring. No words passed between them, just her touch. A silent reminder. Breathe, stay present, choose deliberately. Nathan stopped 3 paces short, boots crunching faintly on the grit-slick curb, lines etched deep at the corners of his eyes. Regret? Resentment? Time? Hard to parse under the practiced blankness. I didn't know where else to go, Nathan muttered. His gaze flicked past Gabriel, to the townhome, the carefully maintained hedges, the warm glow filtering through the front window. I figured you were still here. Gabriel's molars ground tight. His breath shivered shallow through flared nostrils. Slow. Anchor. Do not default to silence as suppression. What do you want, Nathan? Voice even, but taut. Steel cord stretched thin. Nathan's jaw flexed once. A faint tremor danced through his hand before he stuffed it deep into his jacket pocket. I got laid off last month. Union cutbacks. A pause. Gaze hardening faintly, defensive reflex kicking in. Don't worry, I'm not here to ask for cash. Not your style to handouts anyway. Gabriel's throat constricted sharper. The old script. Pride masked as bitterness. Distance cloaked in false self-sufficiency. Patterns laid deep as bedrock. But this time, This time he noticed it, didn't drown inside it blind. Mara's hand at his back pressed lightly, a question, not a command. He inhaled carefully, chest hitching once. Then, "You came here to tell me that," or deliberate tone, not accusatory, not inviting, just clear boundary lines. Nathan's lips parted, breath gusting sharp through his nose. "I'm trying to clean shit up." Voice cracked faintly. "Figure if I didn't at least face you first, it'd stay broke another decade." Gabriel blinked slowly. A dull ache bloomed sharp under his sternum. Old grief resurfacing clean, not buried in rage this time. He swallowed thickly, did not step forward, did not fold in. Finally, "All right," he murmured. "Tomorrow, noon, coffee at West Bay." His voice steadied on the offer. "I'm not unpacking this on my doorstep, and not without neutral ground." Nathan's brow twitched faintly, surprise slipping raw through his features before he masked it again. But his nod came sharp. "Fair." He turned slowly, boots scraping grit, and slid back behind the wheel of his battered sedan. The engine sputtered awake. Brake lights flared dimly. Within seconds, his car dissolved into the dusky stretch of street, swallowed between rows of quiet brick townhouses. Gabriel's knees softened suddenly, breath rushing sharp from his lungs. Mara's hand slid to his chest instantly, her palm bracing steady just above his heart. "You held the line." Her whisper threaded warm and low against his collarbone. "I'm proud of you." His throat bobbed hard. He bent, forehead pressing to her shoulder, breath sharp and uneven. Tremors rippled faint through his frame. Not collapse. Processing. His fist did not clench. His breath did not vanish. He stayed. Present. Upright. Whole. The next day, the cafe window steamed faintly from early spring drizzle. Gabriel sat in the far corner booth, fingers curled loose around a ceramic mug of black coffee. Nathan slid into the seat opposite, denim jacket dampened at the shoulders. For a long stretch, neither spoke. The hiss of the espresso machine and muted clatter of cups filled the space instead. Finally, "I was angry you didn't show up when Mom got sick," Gabriel said evenly, voice low but unshaking. Not just angry, abandoned. Nathan's eyes snapped up, sharp flicker of guilt sparking fast. But he held the gaze, didn't flinch away. "I know." His voice rasped thin. "I thought if I stayed away, it wouldn't crack me open too far to fix." A bitter exhale. Didn't realize staying away cracked everything worse. Silence stretched again, but not suffocating. Measured, tentative. Gabriel nodded once, throat thick. "I'm not here to hash old debts." A breath. "I'm working on not breaking clean this time either." His lips quirked faintly, wry, fragile smile. "Turns out you can rebuild old beams if you brace them right first." Nathan blinked hard, surprise etching deep before something small and pain softened at the corners of his eyes. His shoulders sank minutely. Relief? Maybe. Hope? Too early to tell. But less brittle, certainly. They sat like that, quiet, coffee cooling, scaffolding laid bare but not abandoned. Some fractures take years to surface. Some bridges rot slow and silent before collapse. But foundation can be retied. Steel fatigues. Steel reforges. If you let it breathe long enough to remember what weight it can carry. The rain hadn't let up by evening. Soft patters needled against the kitchen window as Gabriel dried the last plate, setting it precisely in the rack. The overhead pendant light haloed the sink in amber hush, casting long shadows across the slate countertops. Behind him, Mara closed the dishwasher gently, her fingers lingering for a beat longer on the handle than necessary. "You did well today." Her voice broke the stillness first, warm, edged with fatigue. She didn't bother masking. Gabriel's jaw flexed. He placed the dish towel down carefully and turned, bracing his palms against the counter's edge. "It cost more than I expected," he admitted quietly. His gaze flickered to hers, searching, cautious, not for approval, for safe anchoring. Mara stepped closer, sock feet whispering against the cool tile. "Of course it did," she murmured. "You reopened an old scar and didn't cauterize it shut this time. That bleeds slow." Her hand rose instinctively toward his chest, then paused midair, a hesitation barely perceptible. But Gabriel caught it, registered it like a cold thread tightening at his ribs. "Come here," he breathed. His fingers wrapped gently around her wrist, guiding her palm flat against his sternum. Not flinching now, inviting, present. Mara exhaled shakily, a breath soft enough to miss the space between them. Her shoulders lowered. For a long stretch, they stood like that, her hand rising and falling faintly with the cadence of his breathing. Familiar but remapped, less as caretaker, more as co-navigator. Finally, "I need to say something," Mara whispered. Her thumb brushed subconsciously over the soft knit of his shirt. "And I need you not fold inward the second it lands." Gabriel's brow furrowed gently. His fingers released her wrist, resting open at his sides. Invitation clear. She swallowed, throat bobbing visibly. "You've been brave. Committed. All of it." A breath. "But I need you to understand something I didn't say out loud when we were spiraling last year." Her eyes lifted, wet glass clarity cutting clean through dim kitchen light. "I can walk beside you while you recover. I can't drag you again. Not back to where I lose myself trying to pull you toward air you won't reach for." Her voice didn't break. It etched steel along the soft edges. "I love you. Enough to stay while you stagger. Not enough to drown to prove it." The weight of her words landed like quiet tectonic shift. No tremor, just foundational realignment. Gabriel inhaled carefully. Let it settle, not ricochet. He nodded once. Slow, deliberate. "I hear you." His voice caught faintly, but steadied. "I don't want to drag you either." A faint shimmer edged her lashes, but her jaw unclenched. Relief, not from concession. From clarity named cleanly, after a long breath. "I've been cataloging what helps and what strains," he admitted. His hand slid to her waist gently, grounding light contact. "Rana's helping me build flags. Ways to signal when I'm slipping into collapse mode before it eats everything whole." Her brow lifted, cautious but intrigued. "Flags." He exhaled, lips twitching faintly. Wryness laced with vulnerability. "Yeah, tells. Physical and behavioral." He ticked fingers against his palms softly as he listed them, shoulders rising past neutral, avoiding small tasks like sorting mail, overcompensating at work with last-minute projects, clenching jaw at night. "You've caught that one more than me." Mara's lips parted on a small, unsteady breath. Emotion rippled sharp through her gaze, not pity. Recognition. Respect. Her palm pressed firmer against his chest. Affirmation without words. "If I flag those out loud early," Gabriel continued, voice rough, "we can recalibrate together, before the whole structure buckles." He swallowed hard. "I need to carry weight with you, not expect you to shoulder it blind." Mara's breath caught sharp. She blinked fast, one tear slipping clean before she swiped away roughly with her sleeve. Her composure fractured just enough to show the cost she carried, and the relief of finally laying part of it down. Her hand slid upward, fingertips grazing his jawline. When she spoke, her voice landed low and reverent. That right there's how we stay married." No sweetness laced the words, just truth clean as bone. Gabriel bent forward, their foreheads resting flush, breaths tangled close. His fingers curled at her waist, grounding them both. No rush, no performance, just mutual weight distribution, recalibrated minute by minute. Later that night, Gabriel lay awake long after Mara's breath deepened into sleep beside him. The ceiling fan spun slow arcs overhead, quiet hum thrumming faintly like distant heartbeats. He reached blindly toward the nightstand. Fingers brushing the small notepad Rana had urged him to keep within reach. Flag log. He clicked the pen open softly, ink tip hovering over clean paper. He wrote in small, careful script. Flagged early today. Jaw tension. Spiraling after Nathan's visit. Urged to retreat from Mara. Communicated instead of collapsing. Outcome. Stayed present, recalibrated together. He set the pen down slowly. Exhaled. A flicker of something warm and unfamiliar stirred faint in his chest. Not elation. Not relief. Sustainable sturdiness. Scaffolding set firm. Not permanent, but enough to hold weight come morning. Love doesn't heal you. Love hands you bricks. Love says, I'll steady the ladder, but you have to climb. And sometimes that's enough to rebuild everything worth standing inside. It started with a call Gabriel didn't want to answer. The phone vibrated sharp against a lacquered conference table, rattling faint against his notebook. Nathan Mercer. Incoming. Gabriel's supervisor's voice droned on down the table. Quarterly numbers projected crisp and sterile on the glass board. His gaze locked on the name flashing on screen. He didn't silence it this time. Didn't banish it to voicemail black hole. He let it buzz through twice, breathing slow and steady. On the third ring, he rose quietly from his seat and excused himself with a nod. The hallway outside hummed muted. LED panels casting sterile white arcs down polished concrete. Gabriel thumbed the green icon and lifted the phone slowly. Hey! His voice came out even, centered. Nathan's breath hitched audibly on the other end. I wouldn't call during work if it wasn't a crackle of static. Dad's in the hospital. Minor stroke. He's stable. But they're asking family to come in. Thought you should know. Gabriel's sternum hollowed sharp. Not collapse. Just a deep, dull concussion of old history reanimated. He exhaled carefully. Where? Nathan rattled off the hospital name. Downtown. 15 minutes by car. I'm on my way, Gabriel murmured. He hung up gently. 4 or 5 full breaths. He stood, motionless, gaze locked on nothing, breath meter precise. Then he dialed Mara. The hospital atrium stretched cavernous and too bright, glass panels arching skyward, fluorescence reflecting cold off linoleum. Mara's hand found his in the elevator, without hesitation. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. By the time they reached ICU, Nathan was pacing slow figure eights outside the bay windows. His shoulders sagged deeper today, denim jacket rumpled. Hair much like he'd run his hands through it too many times. Dad's awake, Nathan muttered as they approached. Slurred speech. Right side weak. Prognosis looks decent, but he shrugged helplessly. First crack in the armor. Gabriel's stomach folded sharp. Old resentment prickling faint. Armor? That was a soft word for their father's decades of emotional detachment and unyielding expectations. But he caught himself. Breathed and ran his top pattern. Name the trigger. Label the thought. Decide consciously how to proceed. I'll go in first, Gabriel said gently. Nathan's brow twitched, surprise faint before he masked it. He nodded once, stepping back to slump into the molded waiting chair. Inside, the beeping of cardiac monitors pinged low and steady. Their father lay still in the narrow hospital bed, grayed temples blending into paper-thin skin, for lines snaking up towards ceiling pumps. His eyes cracked open sluggishly as Gabriel approached. Sharpness still flickered faint behind the fog. Recognition. History. Unspoken decades packed too dense to exhume in the sterile box. Gabriel sat slowly in the molded plastic chair beside the bed. For a long while neither spoke. Machines hummed softly. Rain whispered faint against the far windows. Finally, I know I wasn't easy, his father rasped thinly. The words landed rough, like gravel tumbled in dry throat. Gabriel's chest cinched sharp. He almost defaulted to the familiar dismissal. It's fine. It's in the past. Don't worry about it. But he caught the impulse Madris. Breath deliberate. His shoulders lowered instead of climbing to his ears. I know, he answered softly. And I know you didn't have tools for it. A breath. But I'm learning to build my own now. His throat thickened painfully. I don't want to carry yours and mine both anymore. Not into the next decade. His father's brow furrowed faint. Confusion laced with flickers of understanding, or at least recognition of a shift. He didn't reply. His eyes softened. That was enough. Gabriel rose slowly. His hand pressed gently to the metal bed rail once. Not to reassure his father. To ground himself. Then he turned and stepped out of the room. The elevator ride down was silent. Mara laced her fingers through his without prompting, palm warm, steady. When they reached the parking structure, Gabriel leaned back against a cool concrete pillar, head tilting skyward, eyes closed. His chest rose and fell slow and measured. After a long minute, he spoke. I flagged 4 things in there. His lips quirked faint, jaw clench, shoulder lift, chest hollowing, urge to dismiss and minimize. Mara, squeeze his hand gently. And you named them. Gabriel's throat bobbed. His eyes opened slowly, clear, steady. I didn't collapse this time. A breath. And I didn't drag you under either. Her gaze shimmered, wet at the corners but steady. She leaned into him, forehead brushing his. No, she whispered. You didn't. That night, Gabriel's notepad bore new ink, flagged under duress, for stress tells, named and diffused in real time. Engage, direct, maintain boundaries. Outcome, intact, present, relationship steady. He set the pen down with a small exhale. Across the room, Mara's lamp cast soft gold arcs as she paged slowly through a book. Legs curled under her. Ordinary, uneventful, safe. You don't erase old fractures. You learn where they run. You trace their seams with care. You teach your hands not to force weight unevenly. And sometimes, that's how you build something stronger than what you lost. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling mental health stories.